Good evening and welcome you all. Especially, we have a very good beginning in the new year, Krodhi, though the name is a little bit worrying name, Krodhi. But however, we have a very good activity in the beginning. Is a special seminar, special webinar on the new frontier in mental health, advances in AI and VR in psychiatry by Dr. Vishal and his team. Now I request GV Ramanrao Garu, the chair of CME, to conduct the further proceedings.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Very much.
Yeah. Good evening, all. It's really wonderful that we are hearing from entrepreneurs, Dr. Vishal, Dr. Sirisha, who have come out with a very good app, Avika, and I'm sure they are going to enlighten us about this app also today. It may be the first time of its kind in our South India or maybe entire country, I don't know. But I appreciate their efforts. And we know that these artificial intelligence is almost like an essential commodity in our day-to-day life. Like we have our electricity or our internet is almost on par with these, daily usage commodity. So without AI, I think we cannot survive. So AI software is very much popular in the physical health, like ophthalmology, oncology, radiology, etc., etc. But in mental health, of course, it's something new. Not new, but in our domain, we are not using it much. And we have very good apps like what we have with Avika, and also we have got some chatbots like WooBot, which is very popular in the Western countries, and they are very useful to deal with mental health disorders like anxiety, depression, and other things. And we also know of the role of robots that assist people with special needs like children with ASD and also persons with Alzheimer's dementia. And we have certain AI-based softwares which were developed to help people with almost all psychiatric disorders like PTSD, schizophrenia, and phobias, where the virtual reality is being used. And we know that there are several advantages of AI. It has great potential in refining our diagnostic systems by virtue of finding people at risk to develop the psychiatric disorders. And also, we have it is very cost effective, especially where there is a dearth of mental health professionals. And machines are usually devoid of human factors like distractions, stress, fatigue, and thus can be accessed anywhere, anytime at the click of the button. So it also is very useful in multilinguistic, multi-ethnic geographical places like US or even our own metropolitan cities where you find different types of people. And a virtual therapist can change its idiosyncrasies like speech, dialect, or eye contact, or mannerisms, etc., which would improve the affinity with the patient and improve the overall communication. And of course, we have certain drawbacks with artificial intelligence, like we have with any other modern technological developments. Like, for example, skills like rapport establishment and forming relationships with the patient and observing the patient's emotions and behaviors cannot be perceived by the present day AI based systems. And also, we have lack of human empathy, compassion, which are crucial components when treating patients with mental trauma or after they develop the severe emotional issues. And healthcare disparities might crop up if artificial intelligence replaces established health services to minimize the financial costs. And also, dependence on robots and their maintenance is also a problem. And the risk of breach of privacy, much more as they store and convey the personal health information, and lack of guidelines specific to various mental health professionals and AI delivering AI services. Error on the part of the mental health professional will be penalized by the law, whereas if a similar glitch occurs due to technology malfunction, laws are not defined to hold the software developer accountable. And most of the AI based intervention studies have been conducted by the designers who might be biased in the form of in the favor of thy product with personal monetary stake in the outcome benefits in our field will be biased unless studied by the connected with third party. So to conclude, a collaboration of MHPs and technocrats, healthcare administrators, policymakers, entrepreneurs, and others is required in order to accomplish full potential of the artificial intelligence and to address the challenges in its applications so that it rightly serves the mankind. Thank you for the opportunity. Now I request our chairperson, Dr. Lokesh, to go ahead with these proceedings. To a brief introduction about Dr. Lokesh Reddy. He is the professor of psychiatry at AIMS Visakhapatnam and presently honorary secretary of the Indian Psychiatric Society South Zone. Previously worked as honorary secretary of Indian Psychiatric Society AP State Branch and also the editor of the State Branch, and is one of the best administrators in our IPS State Branch. So with this small introduction, I request Dr. Lokesh to go ahead with these proceedings. Thank you very much.
So, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So, good evening, everyone. I thank IPS AP State Branch for giving me this opportunity. I think Dr. G.V. Raman Rao sir has made my job a little easier by giving the brief introduction about the topic. In fact, artificial intelligence is the most buzzword which has been, I think we listen to this word every day when we open our mobile phones. The only thing what people more discuss about is, do artificial intelligence replace manpower or human beings? But we don't know exactly what it is about. But the definite is person who doesn't want to use artificial intelligence in their regular work can be replaced by people who use artificial intelligence. So with this, I think in today's lecture, let us hear about one such development in the field of mental health, which uses artificial intelligence from our learned speakers. And I take this opportunity to introduce speakers for today's webinar. One is Dr. Vishal Indla, who is from our mental health specialty. He has completed his MD and DNB from NIMHANS in 2005 and won the gold medal. He has won many prestigious awards like Silver Jubilee Award recipient from NIMHANS for the best outgoing student, Old Psychiatric Association Young Psychiatry Fellowship Award, and also an eminent DNB Teachers Award from ANBAI, and 12th Teachers Young Achievers Club Recognition Award. And he also served our societies in the capacity of President IPS AP State Branch, State Representative to IPS South Zone, and Zonal Representative to National IPS. And he was also instrumental in starting DNB courses in psychiatry at WIMANS and postdoctoral fellowship in child psychiatry. And he is currently the director at INDLAS Hospital, ICGC, and INDLAS Shantivan. And he has authored books, especially on good parents and good children in Telugu. And he also co-authored along with Dr. Sri Yandamuri Virendranath Karu on parenting teachers in Telugu. And apart from this, he is a voracious speaker and he has been the faculty in many national and international conferences. So our second speaker is Sirisha Peyyeti, who is an expert from the artificial intelligence side or from the technological point of view. She did her BTech in civil engineering from prestigious NIT Warangal, and she is currently pursuing her PhD in management from Mahindra University. And she is a seasoned IT leader with more than 2 decades experience with a strong background in data and AI solutions. And she is currently a co-founder and CEO of Avika, an innovative blended mind health platform. So I request the Dr. Vishal Indla and Dr. Ms. Sirisha to go ahead with their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lokesh Garu. Good evening. I hope my voice is audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Andarki Ugadi Subhakankshalu, and I'm so glad that we have more than 60 participants at the start of the presentation itself. I have to thank the President and Secretary for giving us this opportunity to present this and also widely publicizing this webinar. And Lokesh Garu for his kind introduction of both of us, and Raman Rao Garu, who is a CME chair, for introducing the topic. And I can see a lot of learned, very senior psychiatrists and a lot of my friends, colleagues in the audience. I extend a very warm welcome to all of you to this session. So the format of the session, I will be speaking initially, then Sirisha will take over and then I will finally sum it up, and then we will open it up for interactions. It'll be a brief presentation. I think we will have more interactions so we get an idea of what we are trying to showcase because it's a very new app and we think it'll be quite useful for a lot of clinicians. Risha, next slide, please. Yeah, so just to give an overview of some of the challenges that we as psychiatrists might face in the future. You all know that now about 1,200 psychiatrists come into the system every year. Once upon a time, the whole country had about 5,000 to 6,000 psychiatrists who were practicing. And we were all very concerned about the numbers being so low. But now it is quite good. It's quite healthy. We have about 1,200 every year, which means every 5 years, we have the kind of numbers that we had about 5 years back. That means a lot of competition amongst ourselves also. So it's good in a way, it will be healthy. And then there are other specialties like neurologists, gastroenterologists, physicians, a lot of them taking over some of the things that we take care of. Dementia going towards neurology, child developmental disorders going towards developmental pediatricians, developmental neurologists, and so on and so forth. Then we have spiritual gurus, faith healers, motivational speakers, all of them trying to eat into our pie. Of course, there is also a lot of litigation. I can't think of any other specialization which is governed by so many rules and laws, right from the NDPS Act now being attracted to some of our brothers in Punjab and Haryana, Rajasthan, to NMHC, to the Consumer Protection Act. There's so many acts that we have. Of course, Google doctors, all our patients are Google doctors. They come with a lot of Google information. Kidneys are getting spoiled, livers are getting spoiled. This is what some YouTube video said. So what do you have to say about it and stuff like that? E-pharmacies. Pharmacy is one of the good source of income for a lot of psychiatrists, and e-pharmacies are kind of slowly but steadily eating into this chunk as well. Of course, finally, AI, artificial intelligence. Is it really an existential threat for us, for other professions, especially in the context of psychiatrists? Lokesh nicely said something which we will come to a little later. The next slide, please. So this is something that I recently was discussing with a group of psychiatrists in another forum. So basically, there are certain things that we usually don't change. One is our profession. Of course, the other is our spouse. Once we get married to, more or less, we stick with them. So I want you to, of course, this is not an open forum, so I can't see your responses, but want you to think for yourselves, if with all these challenges coming up, do you still think that if you had to choose again, you would still choose psychiatry as your profession, or you would probably think there are just too many things in the way? Is this worth all this hard work and toil? And at the end of the day, doing being under surveillance of so many laws and so many things. So it's a question that I want all of you to introspect. And of course, I was mentioning about the explosion of psychiatrists in our country. Next slide, please. So also, this is very interesting. Many times as psychiatrists, we face unfair competition from psychologists who say that, we treat your illness, psychiatric illnesses, and there is no need of medication. Mattu billalu, nidra billalu lekunda anni nayam chestamu, counseling to nayam chestamu. These kind of things are quite common. And I have generally, when I go to any conference, I try to meet some of the psychiatrists at their hospitals and see how their clinics or hospitals are, just to get a feel of what kind of patients they see. Most of the times, right from Lucknow to, Rajahmundry to Hyderabad, wherever you have a successful psychiatrist practice, in that lane, you will definitely find 2 or 3 such boards. Or very close in the next lane, you would find a board like this saying, okay, we have we have solution for all kinds of psychological illnesses, and there is no need of medication, stuff like that. And obviously, we know that this is far from the truth, but this is something that, many times patients can get misled because of the misinformation campaign that they do. Next slide, please. So our chair and the CME chair, both of them have raised this question about how AI can disrupt the industries, various industries, and also what about health industry, and specifically about mental health industry, specifically for psychiatrists like us. So this is from a very reputed agency, and they have kind of looked at the various sectors, be it banking, insurance, and they found that the disruption in health at this time because of artificial intelligence is relatively lesser compared to some of the other fields. So that's the good news for us. But the not so good news is it doesn't mean that we are totally immune from this. Definitely, we are still praised for artificial intelligence because if we don't adapt ourselves to this, it will be like the Nokia versus the story that has happened with Nokia earlier on when it did not adapt to what Apple, the iPhone was doing. Nokia was the market leader, but it did not adapt to what iPhone was trying to do in terms of adding so many other features to make it a more richer, feature-rich companion to a person than just being a phone call kind of a technology. And I think that's what psychiatrists have to think about. If we don't adapt to what's going on and try to use the tools that are available at our disposal, it might be difficult and things might get more and more tougher for us going ahead. Lokesh very nicely said something, and in fact, this is a slide which will reinforce and emphasize that point that it is not the artificial intelligence that will replace a psychiatrist. Rather, a psychiatrist who uses artificial intelligence probably will replace a psychiatrist who does not adapt to this new technology. I'm thankful to him that he made this point quite emphatically, and there is no harm in repeating some of the fundamental points once and twice and thrice, and this is one such fundamental point. Now, in this context, in the last few years, I have been interacting with some of my friends in the tech world, and Sirisha is a classmate of mine from my school days, and she's a serial entrepreneur. She's a tech person basically, but she hails from Vijayawada as well. And so many times when we meet, we keep discussing about what kind of things I would think would be useful for a patient. And she sounded quite interested, especially about a couple of things. One being virtual reality, and one being an app which has a lot of tools which are quite helpful for our patients. And we don't want our patients, at least I don't want my patients, to be browsing on Google for a lot of information. It could be music, it could be expert content, it could be affirmations, it could be journaling related stuff. But I would be more comfortable if I have some idea that this is authentic, this is credible, and our patients can safely use this and they will not be misled or they will not go down in the wrong direction. So that's how this discussion started about a couple of years back. Initially, it was just ideas and nothing much happened. But in the last 1 year or so, there was serious thought put into it. And finally, in ANSIPS recently at Cochin, we inaugurated this app or a platform which we call a blended mind health platform, because there is two components to it. One is, of course, an app which can be used in a patient's phone, or for that matter, anybody's phone, an iPhone or an Android platform. And then there is the virtual reality platform, which will be installed in a clinic, which a psychiatrist like me or like anybody here could be using it for their patients. So we'll give you a few more details about what it is. Also would like to tell what Avika is. Well, Avika is a Sanskrit word which means brightness, which means light, which means moving away from darkness. So that's how we thought, it will be an apt name for a platform like this, which brings our patients from darkness to light, which adds a lot of brightness and color in a positive way to their life. Next slide, please. Sirisha, you want to take on from here?
Sure. I'm audible, right?
Yes,
all okay?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, thank you. I don't want to interrupt the flow, so I'll continue with where Vishal's left. So yeah, again, I think right at the beginning of this conversation, of this webinar, the eminent speakers already touched on majority of these points. I'll just quickly summarize that. See, all of you probably have heard about chatbots and virtual therapists. I'm sure we've heard about OBot and how successful it is and how seamless it has become in a lot of institutions these days. While these conversation style messaging has become extremely popular, there are they are still extremely research oriented, meaning there is still a notion that they cannot replace humans, and that's rightfully so. Similarly, we've heard about diagnosis and prediction. In a lot of other streams in healthcare, that's become a lot more prevalent, a little lower on the lower side in case of the mental health stream, but still there is diagnosis that is being done using AI, predictions that are being made using AI algorithms already. Again, haven't reached the scale that they have that are being promised, but there is always this whole back foot around missing those predictions or not doing them right. And like Vishal just about a few minutes back pointed out, there's a lot of legal hassles that one has to go through. So you need to be a lot more focused with regards to what that prediction is. We'll talk about exposure therapy. Again, I've spoken to multiple psychiatrists who've heard about virtual reality, who've read papers where virtual reality is being used by contextualizing different environments and using it for exposure therapy. That's become a lot more mainstream these days than what it was earlier. And the last thing that I want to draw your attention to, and this is probably what all of us are experiencing in our day-to-day lives today, is the monitoring and personalizing of it. Whether it is a Uber app that you open or a Swiggy app that you open, there is always going to be recommendations, personalizations. There's always going to be some amount of monitoring with regards to what did you buy earlier or what did you view earlier, etc. So that's an area that is a lot more mainstream today. It is so integrated into any of the platforms, apps, or anything that we use that we don't even recognize it anymore. So whether in the mental health context, it could be a lot of data that smartphones generate. It could be wearables that are helping us understand the sleep patterns or things like that. So what that means is using all of this information to create a treatment plan that is a lot more personalized. And this is, like I said, used in pretty much every digital application that we hear and use today. So these are different segments in which technology is being used, and predominantly with regards to AI and AR, AI and VR. So yeah, I don't want to belabor the point. You guys are a lot more aware of the challenges in mental health than anybody else is. But I just wanted to bring in an outside-in perspective in terms of what, so how a technologist would look at the challenges that you folks are facing from a mental health standpoint. Yeah, Vishal talked about how the world is now hyper-connected. Everybody knows what everybody else is doing, but there's still loneliness. People still go ahead and find their own information, but they're typically misjudging and doing self-care and things like that. So while technology is available, while technology is making it easier for people to consume information, it is also leading them down the wrong path most of the times. Again, the challenge that all of us have spoken about is with regards to the lesser number of, while the number is on the rise in terms of healthcare professionals for mental health, which is a good sign, which is a great sign for the society in general. The ratios in terms of number of people that are available versus number of people that actually need help has a lot of catching up to do. The only way that we as technologists look at it in terms of reaching out to a lot more people is by using digital tools and platforms, is by using apps, is by using adjunct therapies, whatever makes sense for scaling and reaching out to a lot more people. That's the perspective that we have. And again, all of us know that having a mental health condition isn't like not feeling physically well for a couple of days and people kind of bounce back. These are all diseases that actually reduce the productivity of an individual. And if you're looking at it from a whole economy point of view, the numbers are staggering. So the intention again is, why wait for people to come to a psychiatrist, and or even when somebody comes to a psychiatrist, why wait for them to reach out to the psychiatrist again in the next appointment? Is there something that we can do in between consultations? Is there something that we can do in terms of meeting people where they are, whether it is in their workplaces, whether it's in colleges, schools, etc., right? So the idea essentially is to, one, reach out to a lot of people wherever they are, use digital tools to enable scale, so that we can bridge that gap between professionals and people that need help. And while doing that, also be a lot more mindful about what information we're passing, what tools that we're giving them access to, so that we as a team, from Avika's point of view, are able to help and move the needle a bit with regards to the sustainable goals that are there. And rightfully so, mental health has been included in that. And the intention is to reduce the mental health challenge by a certain percentage, and we want to be a small part in that initiative. So that's the genesis of why we started Avika and what we want to focus on. And why should you guys be interested, right? It looks like a fancy AI VR platform. What am I going to get out of it? So I just wanted to lay it out very, very clearly. And this is not just with the platform that we are building. This is true for any technology that you are integrating and using in your workflow on a day-to-day basis in your professional career. One, it should basically improve the quality of treatment that you're providing to your patients. It absolutely doesn't make sense otherwise. With, say, something like Avika, if you have a app that logs what your patients are doing in between appointments, you have a continuum of care that is enabled. You exactly know what your patients are doing, if they're following what you've asked them to do, etc. So that gives you a better sense of where they are in the mental health journey. One, it gives you that, and most importantly, it also gives you a competitive edge that Dr. Vishal was speaking about a while back. So how are you going to differentiate yourself from a whole bunch of people that are flooding this market today? Having access to alternatives, having access to knowing what your patients are doing will in turn lead to better quality of treatment. Of course, all of this has to tally with regard to some numbers. You have to have, this is an investment that you will make. A technology intervention is an investment that you'll make in your practice. So if you are doing that, is it contributing towards your revenue? Absolutely, yes. That's a big tick mark from our side. We implement a subscription-based model. So it's you distribute Avika to your patients exactly like how you are prescribing medication to your patients today. So you make revenue out of selling Avika to your patients. That is absolutely critical and mandatory for any tool or a technology platform to sustain in the long run. The other ancillary impact of using a technology platform like Avika is it will also help you in new patient acquisition. Again, we spoke about reaching out to patients wherever they are. They might not yet be with a psychiatric clinic at this point in time. They might not be going through a rigorous mental health regimen at this point in time. But can we reach out to customers through the workplaces, through the universities, and convert them here? Absolutely a possibility. But more importantly, it also leads to using this as a tool leads to increased productivity. And we've seen that happening already in places where we've installed the application. This increased productivity absolutely means you can see more patients. More patients is growth in patients. So whether it's new patient acquisition, whether it is an alternate revenue stream for you, a new revenue stream for you, and more than anything else, providing better quality of treatment for your patients. That is possibly why people like you should be interested in any technology platform, and Avika specifically, right? We've spoken about what Avika as a platform is and why we've come up with this idea and all of that. But what exactly is that is a couple of things, and Dr. Vishal touched upon it very briefly already. One big portion of the platform is a mobile app called Avika Essentials. Again, like the name suggests, the idea is this is a mobile application that is absolutely essential for your patients. When you prescribe Avika app to your patient, the workflow is fairly simple. We do not collect any personal information about your patient other than a mobile number and maybe a caretaker's mobile number. We don't need to know the name, age, gender. We don't need to know what the diagnosis is. All we need to know is if you think as a practitioner, if you are convinced that your patient using Avika app will benefit from a lot of content and tools that are available on the platform, you prescribe that, the patient downloads it on their phone and they start consuming the content. So we have a lot of information content, psychoeducation content, segregated by areas of focus, whether it is stress, insomnia, depression, any area. We pick up an area, put together a lot of content specific to that area of focus. All of this content is, one, culturally appropriate, meaning we don't make references to, say, a Western society in that sense. Two, they're all in local languages, so you will hear a digital video which plays the audio in Telugu or Hindi or English or Kannada for that matter. So we have these languages right now, and we're continuously adding more and more languages as we go along. So that's one main part of the content that we have on the app. The other is about the tools. Again, this is not just for passive listening of content and understanding some of these issues that are there, which is absolutely critical, important, but it is also about practicing certain techniques and tools so that you build resilience. Your patient builds resilience with regards to their mental health. We've included self-help books, which is very, very unique. A lot of people might not have access to self-help books in different languages, in their own language, something that can be synthesized and understood for them in the context of the challenges that they're facing. So we have small snippets, not more than 4-minute videos that are created for self-help books with a key takeaway. We have music. Again, there's enough studies that have shown that music has an extremely soothing impact on people struggling with mental health conditions. There's a lot of research that is done on what raga is appropriate for which condition. So we've created specific music content on Avika platform that is made available to all your patients should they subscribe to it. There's journaling, there is breathing exercises, simple activities that they can do and track so that their day-to-day life gets better. This is possibly a recommendation that you're making when you're seeing a patient today. It is just that you're also giving them an app so that all of that information is contained in one place instead of them going all around and searching for it on a YouTube or using 5 different apps and kind of getting confused with the overlap and abundance of information that is there, right? So that's the content that is available. What we've known through conversations with people like you, and of course Dr. Vishal and his team played a big role here, is we understand that medication adherence is the biggest problem that you deal with. The patients don't continue to take medication regularly. This is a big challenge, and while you could always ask your patient to set an alarm on their phone saying, take your medications on time, that is not going to be creating the impact that we intend to drive through Avika. The idea is to have notifications sent at an appropriate time based on the regimen that the patient has to take the medication for. And these notifications are also educational and kind of nudge them into taking medications rather than being very, very bland. So that's something that we do. The other important and interesting aspect that we covered through the app is the patients obviously want to be in touch with their doctor, with their hospital, with their team of doctors that kind of give them care. And you probably want to communicate something important or interesting that you have done to a bulk of your patients. So you probably already use social media channels, but again, you're there vying for people's attention amongst a huge set of things that they see. But if you had all your patients using Avika app, and if you had actually broadcasted a video or linked it to your YouTube video that you have, it goes to all your patients and your patients only. That way they kind of hear from their doctor firsthand. And if the patient has some questions, for example, it's not like about WhatsApp where you're constantly chatting, but if they have questions, queries, and if it is not an emergency situation, which we have a disclaimer for, the patients can key in what their questions are, and you from your hospital can look at an appropriate time to respond to it. So that way they feel a lot more connected. What has been extremely impressive for us is when we deployed this and we started using this, the dashboard that the psychiatrists, the team of psychiatrists are seeing of their patients. So while the patient, all your patients get a mobile application, you will have a web page. You will be able to log in. You will be able to see a list of all your patients. You'll be able to click on a particular patient, see what they are looking at, what their content consumption is like. Did they miss out on medication? Are they journaling regularly, etc., or not? So you will have access to that information, and that's something that we noticed was very, very powerful, and gives you a much more first-hand information of what your patient is going through in between appointments. Yeah. So that's the app. And what I'll do now is just try and give you a quick sneak peek about the content and the type of content that we have on the app. Let me just toggle and go to YouTube and play a few content pieces.
Life's Amazing Secrets by Gaur Gopal Das.
I'm
టైర్లలో గాలి తక్కువగా ఉన్నప్పుడు కారు డ్రైవ్ చేసే ప్రయత్నం ఎప్పుడైనా చేశారా? కారు నడుస్తుంది, కానీ తేడాగా అనిపిస్తుంది. అలాగే డ్రైవ్ చేస్తూ ఉంటే కారు పూర్తిగా పాడయ్యే అవకాశం ఉంది. అలా 2-3 సార్లు టైరు పంక్చర్ అయితే ఇక ఆ కారు నడపడానికి రాదు. అసలు కారు గురించి ఎందుకు మాట్లాడుకుంటున్నామో అని ఆలోచిస్తున్నారా? వాహనానికి 4 చక్రాలు ఎలాగో మన జీవితాన్ని నడిపించేది కూడా 4 కీలక విషయాలని అంటున్నారు రచయిత గౌర్ గోపాల్ దాస్. ఈ విషయాల
So that's a book summary that you just heard. Again, I just got a small snippet right now, but the idea is these are going to be 4-minute videos with very, very concise, precise information packed in it. We will use not more than 3 or 4 change of scenes. There is of course a video that goes along with it, but those video representations are also going to be easy on the eye. And towards the end of every book summary, you will have a key takeaways section that I'll show you in a bit, that your patients can actually take a screenshot of and continue to refer. So that is something that we do on book summaries. Let me just show you a quick one on The
Along the way.
Alchemist. This is
It
an English
reminds
version,
us
but that's not important, I think.
of your destiny.
Yeah, so what is important is this, which is after every book summary that is done, you will see a key takeaway slide, and this is also going to be in different languages, as in you'll actually see a Telugu script here. People can take a screenshot and kind of refer to it on an ongoing basis. So that is something that we do. Vishal spoke about affirmations. Again, you might have seen a lot of affirmations on YouTube already. The local languages are not that great.
Welcome to Reddy. We are the leading leadership platform for women in India.
ఆలోచన శక్తికి నా కృతజ్ఞత.
Yeah. So this is the
ఈ జీవితం
affirmations that
ఎంతో
we've
అందమైనది
created.
మరియు గొప్పది.
Again, a
నాకు
pleasing
తెలియని
visual
వ్యక్తుల నుంచి నేను
content
పొందిన దయకు నా కృతజ్ఞత.
as well as information available.
నన్ను బిజీగా ఉంచిన సమయానికి నా కృతజ్ఞత.
So that way you can refer, your patients can actually refer to the point that is being made, the affirmation that is being made, repeat after it, listen to it, look at it, hear it, and continue to practice it on a long-term basis. There are daily affirmations, there's affirmations for joy, for gratitude, for grief, a whole range of topics like that, right? So these are, again, some content items that we've created where we think your patients, one, not only use this for information purposes, but kind of continuously practice this. What we are extremely proud of is the work that we've done in terms of Indian ragas that we've incorporated. Again, a lot of ragas are known for their healing quality. Just so that you know, these are basically done by actual artists. There's nothing AI generated here. We've used everything from a veena to Arabic oud to a combination of instruments. We've picked the right visual, but again, these are audios that you can hear without kind of constantly looking at the phone. And we've got something for everybody here, whether it is concentration, lack of sleep. There's some very, very good ragas that are noted for inducing sleep, so Rag Desh and things like that, for anxiety, for stress, different conditions for concentration, focus. I'll just let it play for a few seconds. Yeah, so that is the kind of content that we have access to. Again, I am only showing basic versions here, not actually able to give you a proper view of what these would sound and look like in the phone. That is something that I will not be able to show on a screen right now. But yeah, again, I would ask you to try and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can look at I'll share the credentials towards the end of the session. You can go to our YouTube channel and there's some sample content that we've put in there. It'll give you a better sense of the quality of content that we have. Right? So that's the idea again is to build that connect with your patient, and kind of be available for them even at home in between appointments. So that's the whole intention behind building this app and the portal that you can use. Now, just the other side of this coin. So like we talked about AI and VR, and I'll focus a bit on the virtual reality side of it. So with Avika as a platform, we have a second product, and this is something that is extremely exciting. We've seen a lot of enthusiasm for Avika Wellness, as we're calling it. This is essentially a library of content or environments available for users in virtual reality. Again, this is a very, very clinic-centric setup. So this is not something that your patients take Oculus or any headset to their home and start relaxing or practicing meditation. No, that is not the idea. The idea is this needs to be done in a proper clinical setting. So you in your clinics, in your hospitals will have a therapist, a psychologist that kind of sits along with the patients and uses virtual reality purely as a tool for providing them an alternative in terms of therapy that you can provide to your patients. So we have a lot of experiences already built in terms of meditation, relaxation, mindfulness. We call it a foundational or a base version. Again, if you don't want to use VR for any specific protocols, you could absolutely subscribe to what is called a base version and ensure that the fundamentals around anxiety, stress, and we've seen it work miracles for a lot of patients who are severely depressed as well. Give them an option to kind of relax, listen to some soothing music, all the while being immersed in a extremely realistic environment. So we have beaches, we have mountains, forests. So instead of you telling your patients to kind of close their eyes and imagine they're in a serene environment, you actually put them in that environment and help them with their meditative breathing exercises or relaxing their minds. So that's something that you can absolutely do. In addition to that, we have what is called, again, you do a lot of exposure therapy or ERP today, but instead of doing it in vivo, what if you had a virtual reality environment to help you with it, right? So we have OCD, contamination, dirt, we have social anxiety, we have fear of heights, we're including, we have fear of crowds, we're including a lot of other protocols as we go along, starting with alcohol dependency to ADHD in kids, and fear of closed spaces, fear of MRI machines, which happens to be Dr. Vishal's favorite environment and a theme he wanted us to include from day one. So we're building newer protocols in the virtual reality environment that you now can use these as immersive culturally appropriate experiences again. In the case of social anxiety, for example, you don't have to put them in a setting in a pub or whatever. You can take them to a cafe. Alcohol dependency, you can show them a street which is Indian looking with say a liquor shop board out there, things like that. And if there are languages and audio associated with it, that will also be in local languages. I know there are questions, and we'll come to that as we go along in a bit. Yeah. So the idea is eventually we want to integrate sensors for HRV and a few other things that will help provide a much more integrated analysis for the patients. But otherwise, we're very, very excited about what VR can help your patients with. So that's the other product that we have. So we have Wellness, which is a mobile app and a web interface, and Essentials, which is a mobile app, and Wellness, which is a VR environment. Now, how did we use the technology? Again, the idea is, like I said, transport them to a serene environment. We've used custom protocols where they can be exposed to. The idea is to not just build 5, 6, 7 environments, but the idea is to scale and most importantly, localize these experiences. So you'll see a Indian looking cafe, you'll see an OCD public toilets, which are a lot more Indian looking than something that's completely Western. Fear of heights, you'll see something in an Indian context. So those are some specific things that we're taken care of as a part of that. I will try and open these as well. But yeah, while I do that, maybe I'll just complete this and I'll set it up in a bit. Yeah. Again, for us, the VR or wellness platform is more to do with not just building a connect with your patient, but also providing you as a practitioner with a new revenue stream, and of course, bring in a great new experience and benefits for your patients. Yeah.
I'll take over, Sirisha.
Yeah.
Last couple of slides. I should also tell you, make a disclaimer and a disclosure that I'm invested into Avika. So obviously I will have a bias in what I say, but I also think that these are tools that will be quite useful for most of us, especially in a world which is changing so rapidly. Sirisha mentioned about how a psychiatrist could differentiate himself from the rest using some of the technologies. It could be Avika, it could be anything. There are, of course, certain other options, not many actually, very few options that are available, but some form of technology will always help a doctor, a psychiatrist to stand out. She's already mentioned a lot of these things, but I just want to highlight that some of the things like the breathing exercises, the succinct book summaries, the journaling techniques, and most importantly, the nudges to take medication. It's not just saying, okay, now it is time, take medication, but a small nudge saying, ee time lo meer medication veskokapote oka roju medication miss aite chances of malli mee illness relapse ayyeki inta chances undachu ane చిన్న facts which we have collected from various research articles అలాంటివి కనిపిస్తూ ఉంటాయి. Just to make sure and give them a nudge rather than, outright scare them or just be very mechanical and send a notification saying, okay, time to take medication. So we want to give some kind of information also through even these things. And that's why we're calling them as nudges. And also VR is something that Sirisha mentioned. That's a standout feature, I think. There are a lot of generic environments and more environments are being built in. Those environments, I think, can be used for all those patients who are not acutely psychotic or agitated. There are multiple protocols in that. Some of them could be for just mindfulness, for relaxation, for JPMR kind of a thing. And there are also specific protocols like what she mentioned, dirt contamination obsessions, where they are kind of steadily exposed from a lesser, dirtier environment to a much more anxiety-provoking, dirtier environment. And same with closed spaces, same with lifts, same with crowded areas, and so on and so forth. Next slide, please. Yeah, also, I have to acknowledge the help and support that I've got from a lot of our colleagues. In fact, though in ANSIPS Cochin, we have launched it, in Guntur Ipsocon, Dr. Sharath and Dr. IVL and Guntur Psychiatric Society hosted that. That's when we initially sat with psychiatrists. We had a small product then. Many experts like Dr. Raman Rao Garu, A lot of them, Dr. Mahesh Gowda, Dr. Suresh, a lot of them have Ramesh Balaji. They've all experienced some of these things. We kind of said, brainstormed some of the ideas. We got some critical feedback, and which we are trying to incorporate by the passing day. And we've already, as Sirisha mentioned, in our hospital, we have been using this for almost less than a month, not even a month. On 18th of March, we've had a grand inauguration where we had the health secretary, etc., come and inaugurate it. And subsequent to that, we've started prescribing it to some of our patients, both VR as well as the Avika app. And this is some of the feedback that we have got. There's a lot of feedback and it's coming up, but we thought just a snippet of what we've initially got. Enjoyed listening to the ragas, could have continued listening it to beyond 15 minutes. Usually what happens is we try to restrict some of these sessions to 15 to 30 minutes, but some of the patients on this do not want to stop. They want to continue it for a longer period of time. We previously used another VR equipment as well. That's a little culturally insensitive to what we have now. And this is much more culturally sensitive with a soothing music or with a voiceover in local languages like Telugu, Kannada, etc. It's much more easier on the ear and the patient wants to be on the VR platform a little longer. Also, patient initially who was reluctant to try VR for various reasons, slowly started expressing the willingness to try further with 2 modules in a single session for next time. Patients who had panic attack, complained of heaviness and uneasiness in heart, took medication after consulting doctor before attending the session, explained about panic attacks, relaxation. Patient felt better after module 1 and module 2 and felt significant relaxation. This is also the patient, like the graphics, felt relaxed after viewing them. When asked to rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, she gave them an 8. When asked to rate the raga on a scale of 1 to 10, the patient responds with the 9 out of 10. She preferred ragas over meditation. So there are multiple options in the VR platform, and these are some of the things that patients preferred, like the meditation, as he found the audio to be good. So there is a lot of attention to the music. Surprisingly, a lot of our patients are actually finding the soothing benefits and the healing benefits of the ragas that we have incorporated into the VR platform. Next slide, please. On the app, again, some feedback which our psychologists have got, which they have passed on to us. I like the way simple solutions had been given to tackle anxiety, exercise, food, sleep, rather than making anxiety look like a bad word. All the ragas on the app are apt for the purposes stated. I felt it's user-friendly and easy to navigate, not too complicated and confusing. I like the meditation, as found the audio to be good, didn't find the music so interesting. This is the ones in the brown are from our psychologist. When I asked what the experience was, she mentioned that the patient told the psychologist that I feel nice now that you're tracking and understanding me better. You have details whenever I come back for the next session. You are already able to tell how I use the app. I feel more connected and I feel more cared for. Is one of the feedbacks that our psychologists have given, which came from a patient. Also, that it's very useful to the patients. In fact, the music relaxation section is so soothing. The ones in the brown are feedback again from our therapist. We have been collecting much more feedback, as and I think next time when we talk, we will have much more feedback to share with you as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the last slide. Just that some of the slides are in. We have some of our people. That's Mahesh Gowda with the VR equipment in Nimhans. We tried it, and then in the next slide we have the other founders of Avika signing a contract with our hospital. Then the ANSIPS launch that we did. We can find some eminent psychiatrists here, Dr. Swaminathan, Dr. Mohandas, Dr. Nimesh Desai. And we were also at the Nimhans Digital Academy trying to bounce off some of these ideas with Dr. Suresh, who is the head of the Digital Academy there. And we discussed both the app as well as the VR, any regulations that we have to keep in mind, and what he thinks of these platforms. And in fact, there is a very bright young team sitting at Nimhans looking at some of these things. And they were giving us quite a good feedback and also some critical feedback, which helped us in molding the app further. The last photograph is the one of the inauguration where we had our health secretary, also the vice chancellor of the health university and the chairman of AP higher education. So all of them were there for the inauguration. Now, the whole idea is that, there are lots of technological advances that have happened in all the fields. RTMS is one of the technological advances, but RTMS is a very expensive tool that we would prefer to have, but sometimes might be cost prohibitive. But some of these things, I would think VR and the app is not so heavy on the patient's pocket and also on the clinician's pocket, but at the same time offers certain benefits, and there is no panacea. But in this world where, you you have more tools. You want to use all the tools for the benefit of your patient rather than saying, okay, let me just stick to medication because I'm trained only for medication. I think as psychiatrists, we should embrace technology and the advances that come in, and of course have a trained technician or a psychologist, even better, to implement some of these things at your clinic. Because for as busy doctors, I'm sure it will be impossible for you to talk about the app in great detail. But if you think this app or VR would be helpful, just giving them a prime about it, and then one of your team members could take the conversation forward, and if they're interested, move forward with either the app or the VR if they can come for regular sessions, I think would be quite useful. And in the last 20-30 days of what we've been using the app with our patients, before that we've done some what should I say, some beta form of the study where we've used a rough version of it. But once we've started using the app, the encouraging feedback is quite positive for us. So today, where are we today? Well, we've been in multiple places. In fact, last week, Avika team was in Karnataka. They have actually installed in Shimoga, Dr. Preeti Pai's clinic. It's all set. It's a matter of another maybe 1 week, 10 days before it gets installed there. And also in Dr. Mahesh's place, they have demoed, and it's a matter of time before it gets installed in Dr. Mahesh Gowda's setup in Bangalore. And then, of course, Dharwad and Hubli, they have been kind, both Kims and Dimhans. They've given demo and they're showing interest, and hopefully they're big institutions, both of them, in the twin cities of Dharwad, Hubli. That's another place the installations should be happening in the next 1 month or so, especially the VR, followed by the app. So that's something that's very encouraging for all of us. And Sirisha, you want to just conclude with some of the points about the plans in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the intention is to continue to build on the content catalog that we have. Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, if not months, we will have installations going in at least 4 different centers. That will mean more and more feedback for us to make the platform better. That's essentially where we are. And I'm seeing some interesting questions in the chat window already. So maybe Vishal will take that and start answering that. I don't know if everybody can see those questions. I'll read out for everyone's benefit. One question is around, is VR better or AR or mixed reality?
Hey, Sirisha, sorry to interrupt, but if we are done with the presentation, then we'll hand over to the moderator, Dr. Lokesh, and I think he can take forward the question answer session.
Oh, okay. Because yeah, sure. I'll just stop sharing.
I think that brings us to the end of the presentation. We thought we'll keep it brief and have some time for interaction. So now, thank you once again for giving us this opportunity. And Dr. Lokesh, please take the session forward.
Yeah, thank you.
Dr. Lokesh, just one small point. So I've put up the slide which has all the information. So please take a look at it. Maybe take a screenshot if you can. Please reach out to us beyond what we're going to be answering right now. Sorry, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. That was a wonderful introduction to the recent developments. I think without wasting much time, actually, we'll start with the question answer sessions. First, we'll go with the questions which are typed in the question answers box. First is from Dr. V. Satyanarayana Garu. Which is better, VR or AR or mixed reality for psychiatry patients?
Yeah, well, I'm not an expert on these things, but as much as I have had discussions with our team, looks like for now, VR is the technology that can be used appropriately for patients with mental health issues. Sirisha, you want to add?
Yeah. Again, the complexity is one aspect that we have to consider. The uses are different. The other aspect that we have to consider. But purely from a ERP exposure therapy standpoint, VR is possibly a lot more relevant and mainstream right now. Yes, absolutely. Other technologies can be used, but this seems to be a little more relevant at this point in time.
Yeah, the next question is from Dr. Vishal. Can biomarkers and AI predict prognosis in schizophrenia?
Yeah, well, I wish it happens one day in our lifetimes, but at this time, we do not have that kind of specificity for biomarkers that can predict or detect an illness, or for that matter, predict prognosis. I think we have still some way to go before we reach there. At this time, each of the psychiatric illnesses is linked to multiple biomarkers and genes. So we still don't have the advances in neurosciences to help us answer the question that Satyanarayan Garu has raised.
Next is from Dr. Bharati Garu. Congratulations to the team for coming up with this technology. AI has taken the technology world by storm, and I still haven't understood how I can prescribe the patients with this app, and is it legally plausible?
Yes, good question, Bharati Garu. So, two parts to this. One, how do you prescribe this app? Well, it's available on the iOS platform and also on the Android platform through a link. But iOS, it is available in the Play Store itself, App Store itself. And so, how do you prescribe it? Well, patient cannot directly download it. Even if he or she downloads the app, they cannot install it and use the features of the app unless a psychiatrist configures it, or a team member of the psychiatrist configures it in the phone of the patient. So if a psychiatrist is interested to have the Avika app in their hospital, in their clinic, then if they contact the Avika team through the number or email or whichever platform, the Avika team will be happy to talk to them about the details, and then they will give them a lot size. For example, if a clinic wants 25 slots or 50 slots or 100 slots of the Avika app, they will be given to the doctor, and the doctor alone can then prescribe it to the patient and get it installed. The patient will not be able to use it without a doctor in between. And that's one of the things that, though, a lot of these other seniors have mentioned to us that you should directly make it open to the consumer, to the patient. We don't want to do that because we want to make sure that, it goes through a doctor, and the doctor takes that 1 or 2 minutes at least, and then somebody in his team talks to them about the app, and only then they install the app. Because this is not an alternative to pharmacological interventions. This is not an alternative to psychiatric diagnosis and counseling by an experienced or by a qualified psychiatrist. This is only an additional tool to the psychiatrist's armamentarium to strengthen his hands in this world where there are so many tools bombarding from all sides. That's how we want to position it, rather than having this as something that the patient can directly download. And is it legally plausible? Well, there is not. We've made standard disclaimers, very basic standard disclaimers, but there is nothing in this app, or for that matter in VR, which comes in the way of its legal use, because this is more of ragas. And we've clearly marked in many places, if somebody feels very suicidal or very agitated, they obviously have to consult with their psychiatrist, and we provided means to do that. So whatever is in the app, like book summaries, ragas, journaling techniques, these psychiatric expert content, these don't require any approvals anywhere in the world. However, if we promise that we are going to diagnose through this app, or we are going to give treatment through this app, then we require some regulatory approvals, but we are not making any such claims at this time. So I can't see any legal hassles, at least at this time. Of course, the law in this field is evolving rapidly. Tomorrow, if something comes up, we will keep all of you posted. But at this time, the content that is offered in the app, there is absolutely no legal hassle.
Yeah, well, I'll just club the next 2-3 questions. Actually, it belongs to the same. Is the Avika app free? From your discussion, it costs something to the patient, to the pocket of the patient. But definitely, what is the cost of installation and how much it costs in the pocket of the patient?
Sirisha, you want to take it?
Yeah. So we are, from a platform point of view, we sell Avika to you as lots, like Vishal mentioned a while ago. So you can, as a practitioner, buy a 25 lot size or a 50 lot size or a 100 lot size from us. And you end up distributing this to your patients, and you charge whatever you think is appropriate for your patients. We don't put a limit on a lower limit on that. If you intend to give this app to your patients for free, feel free to do that. But on the higher end, we're thinking anywhere between 1,200 to 1,500 rupees per annum for each patient is what can be charged. And we will price our subscription package to you at a much more palatable number below that, right? So we sell it to you and you sell it to your patients. We would recommend you do it with between 1,200 to 1,500 rupees per annum per patient. But yeah, you make that choice and you take that decision.
Yeah, next question is, if the treating psychiatrist prescribes AA app and patient doesn't feel satisfied and if he sues. So adding to it, should we take any informed consent, written informed consent about before starting or before prescribing this. This an add-on from my side.
Yeah, good question, Lokesh. So there is as soon as the patient opens the app, there are certain terms and conditions that he or she needs to agree before they move on. And a lot of these things are mentioned very clearly to the patient. And generally, most of us don't make the effort to read all the terms and conditions. But there are multiple terms and conditions in the app. Before the app even opens for the patient, he or she has to accept those. And all these things are very, very clearly mentioned in that. One is, of course, about the privacy and confidentiality of the patient. The precautions that we are taking are given very clearly in that terms and conditions. Also, that this is not a diagnostic or a treatment app, and it is no substitute for the treating doctor. And we make no claims that we are going to treat your depression or OCD or anything like that. These are just additional tools that a doctor can utilize for a suitable patient. So those kind of terms conditions are very, very clearly laid out, without accepting which, or you mentioned consenting to which, they cannot even start using the app.
I think we have finished all the questions from the question box. Any questions from the panelists? I invite.
Thank you, Lokesh.
Sir.
First of all, I think in today's presentation, I have seen an entrepreneur in Vishal Indla, who definitely has his own vision in promoting his app, and maybe joined the correct person, Sirisha. What I'm surprised, if I may, and Vishal, I might be a little harsh here, please pardon me. You yourself started off saying there are hundreds of apps, or thousands of apps. Having said that, in what conditions did you test this app? Do you have any validated data? Do you have any research in patients? See, I'm okay with saying I'm okay with saying that this is another good app which is going to be the future, because it has features, as you put it, as artificial intelligence, which I didn't practically I didn't understand in your presentation, but I would take it. But the second part, virtual reality part, I did understand. And you have incorporated the music as one theme, and the cartoons as another theme, and that's a standard in most phobia management and all. But my question here is validation for this app and the costing. I mean, this is my my personal reactions first when I heard you. I'm sure you would have spent, I'm sure, and I'm well aware that any person who develops a app will necessarily has to put money into it. Obviously, it's being tested. In my own Asha hospital, I have tested at least 2 other apps, one an international app also, and with a proper double-blind clinical trial as well. But having said that, did you put something into the, are you putting something into the research? Second, I just heard Sirisha saying that we are going to sell lots, and that lots would be given by psychiatrists. Costing is his choice. Again, that's a one kind of a business model. But from your side, how much are you selling this app to a psychiatrist in terms of that 50 lots or 100 lots? May I hear from you, please?
Thank you for the question, sir. It's not at all harsh. It's very nice that a senior person like you has asked very appropriate questions, and it's good that we do these kind of brainstorming, sir. Obviously, when something new comes up, there is a lot of hesitancy and a lot of skepticism about those things. So it's very well taken, sir. So no problems with that. About validation through double-blind data, for the VR part, we have actually done a study in our hospital, and the paper is being sent to a couple of journals for publication. We've made 2 papers out of the data that we have, and we are waiting for approvals. Since this all has happened in the last 1 year, at this time, we have enough data for the VR part. But for the app per se, app has a lot of independent pools and nothing like a diagnostic criteria and diagnosing or prognosticating or treating. These are all small individual tools which put together, I personally think, will be of some use. As you rightly said, we still haven't done a double-blind placebo-controlled trial for the app at this time. But at the same time, there is the first dictum that we follow is do no harm, and definitely there is no harm that an app like this do, because these are all otherwise available in the social domain, in the social media platforms across. We are just trying to collect that kind of information which is useful for our patients, which is authenticated by experts like you. In fact, Dr. Suresh Badamat has volunteered to give his content to be put free of cost on the app, and he's not charged a penny from us. So some of the psychiatrists have done that. Some of the young psychiatrists are very happy to give their voice and put their content here. So this is expert content which will be vetted by expert psychiatrists. Again, even if somebody says, I want to put my content, somebody sitting behind another expert psychiatrist would vet that content, and only then it will come onto it. But at this time, for the VR, we have data. But for the app, which has multiple tools like journaling, etc., we do not have a double-blind study. That's one part. About the second thing, about how much are we charging to the patient and how much to the doctor. As she said, the upper limit, we want every doctor to not go beyond 1,200 to 1,500. In fact, in our hospital, we are charging around 1,200 per annum. So many tools incorporated into the app per annum coming for 1,200, when the costs of most of the psychiatrist fees, etc., are usually 400, 500 per visit. So we think it's a very reasonable basis, and before we did this, we have had interactions with multiple psychiatrists about what would be a good pricing model. Of course, it's unfortunate we could not take your opinion at that time, but we have had discussions with a lot of them before pricing the app. And to the doctor, it comes to around 1,000 rupees or so, 900 to 1,000. So the doctor can sell it because he has to put in, it's not about a business model, sir, but the doctor has to put in his efforts to educate about the app briefly. He needs a receptionist or somebody who needs to download the app, explain the features of the app. These are maintenance costs for the hospital. And that's why the doctor may have to charge a little higher. But if a doctor wants to give it free of cost for his patients, then by all means, it could also be done. And in fact, with every lot size, I think they are also giving a few free slots as well. So it's up to the doctor how he wants to utilize it for his patients. But because, as you rightly said, there is a lot of money that goes into getting original music content recorded in studios, and not because of copyright issues. No, sir, we can't even take copy-pasted YouTube content. All the content is original content that we have done here, except Dr. Suresh's content, which he was with his largest, he's passed on some of his content to us.
Yeah, Vishal, sorry, just a couple of other things that I wanted to add. The good doctor pointed out, we probably did not highlight the AI usage in the app at all. So just to close out on that very, very briefly, AI is used intrinsically in the app. We are not, so basically the multiple language translations, the voiceover, recommending content, all of that is being done using AI. And the intention is to be able to scale. We know the liveliness of the app or continuity of the app will depend on as much content as we can generate and put on the platform on a regular basis, which is not practical if you don't have AI-backed technology. We need to have a large, massive media house level teams. So that's the reason where we decided that we would use and leverage AI. So I thought I'll just clarify that point.
Thank you, Sirisha. No, I do understand. I have yet another question on the same. Sure. Let us say you are given to 200 psychiatrists. I mean, there are 200 psychiatrists who bought the app.
Sure.
Do you get back the info about the usage of the app by the patients, by these 200 psychiatrists? And are you likely to use that as an AI? Which means, of course, for an app developer like you want as much data. But there are, again, at this point of time, the area is gray to a large extent. The confidentiality of the patient is gone. See, in psychiatry, especially, we keep talking much more than other, even general medicine, we need to have a confidentiality. But here, a lot of personal details might come in. You already told me in the beginning that we are not collecting anybody's name and all.
Right.
But just like any successful app developer, all the information, if it is coming to you, it is going to be rich for you in terms of knowledge and this thing. So my own, not concern, my own observations at this point of time is, does the data come back to you about the usage and utility?
Mhm.
And the second important question is again related to the first. See, let us say patient starts with an anxiety score of 16 and it comes down to 10. Will that kind of information also comes to you?
Sure. So great question again, sir. I'm sure we should set up a separate conversation and discuss this in detail. But
Sorry.
no problem at all.
Am I dominating this
No,
question?
no. I think it's important for everybody in the audience to understand this more than anything else. So yes, we are absolutely greedy for data. I'm not denying that at all. But what we collect is aggregate data, if you will. So yes, we will know. We just have a patient ID. We obviously have the mobile number of the patient because we need to send the link for them to download. But beyond that, like I said, we really don't have information about the diagnosis or, like you said, the anxiety, based on the anxiety scales, what their numbers are. We don't have that. What data do we have and what do we use it for? Yes, we have data about consumption of what sort of content are people taking up. That will help us provide more content in that area, right? If there is nobody who's using, I don't know, affirmations content, for example, we might put and focus our energies on bringing more and more book summaries rather than affirmation. So it is for us to understand where we should put our efforts and concentration on. And again, if we want to do personalization, if we want to create a Spotify type playlist tomorrow where we are saying, because of your consumption pattern, we think this is a bunch of videos that you should be looking at for this week. For us to be able to do those sort of recommendations, yes, we collect information on what this ID has consumed. And we also collect that information because we want to show it to you in a dashboard. When your patient comes back to you, you see that they've done X number of hours. In fact, one of the important features that we built in the app is we don't want this to be another platform that people get addicted to. So more than 60 minutes, anybody is on Avika app, you will get a notification and ask them to close the app. So we are collecting information, but that is only for an aggregated use of understanding which categories are popular and how can we make better recommendations. I know we probably...
No, Sirisha, you did answer quite well. And I am, first of all, congratulating Vishal to have a lovely classmate friend like you. And also, both of you thinking really from a business point of view quite well. And I do wish both of you all the success you deserve for your hard work. But my own caution, obviously, is be staying with the laws of the land, which I'm sure Narendra Modi is coming very, very soon with the new digital and this kind of, and second, new law for artificial intelligence.
Absolutely.
The point, Vishal knows me much more than you, that I always look for a validated data. Well, I'm sure Andhra Pradesh itself currently, right now, I think 160 or 170 logged in. If all these doctors start buying Avika and using for their patients, you would get the data within no time. But I would personally look and suggest to both Vishal and you that, and Vishal knows this. I mean, it's not that I need to even tell him. He's such a brilliant chap. So do a good multicentric studies, at least 20 cases. And I am one who believes that there are side effects even in this. I mean, Vishal was positive when he said that there are not likely to be any side effects. I know of a patient, few patients who got addicted to some raga such a way that they would only sing the same song all the time. I mean, the family felt that was a side effect. When I told the same Mohana Raga I used to use for depression, and I practiced the Raga therapy for quite some time. Nice. So, I mean, there are obvious side effects which can expect, but I definitely think, I think Vishal is ahead of his father anyway, in very many ways. The way he thinks and the way he practices the science of psychiatry, science and art of psychiatry. I wish both of you all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your blessing.
Sir, thank you, sir. We can, because paucity of time, can we end with one last comment or question from Dr. G.V. Ramandav, sir?
Yes, sir. Just for interest sake, I would like to ask Dr. Sirisha, Miss Sirisha, what type of artificial intelligence you're using in this app? Like, is it a rule-based artificial intelligence or is it a generative artificial intelligence that what we use in Chat GPT? Because the Chat GPT type of intelligence, it sometimes it creates errors to the patients, and sometimes, especially violent patients, self-harm patients with self-harm, it may give wrong suggestions, and sometimes they may put to some risk. So, what type of artificial intelligence you have used in this app?
Yeah. So again, just to clarify, we are not building. We don't have a chat bot where a generative AI interface like a GPT will start answering questions for patients. We are not doing that. What we've used AI here for is for translating all the content in local languages, for creating voiceovers for some of those. So the English audio that you hear or the Hindi audio that you hear, a lot of them are AI generated voices. But all of that content obviously is vetted by the team of professionals here before that content is put on the app. So we are restricting and refraining from letting AI loose on your patients, sir. We want to ensure that we use AI intrinsically within the app so that you don't even figure out that there is AI in it. That is the goal. We don't have a chatbot type interface at this point in time. Even if we were to build something like that, because there is a need and time and place for it. When we build something like that, it will have all the guardrails. We will not let it answer questions that are specifically for, say, a psychotic patients. We will not try and boil the ocean and let all the answers come from AI. So we will put that guardrails in place. But for now, we don't have a bot that is AI.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And wish you all the best for both Vishal and Sirisha. Wonderful, discussion. And also, I think for youngsters, definitely it's an inspiration. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
I
Thank
think
you,
many
sir,
of
for
us,
giving the opportunity.
yeah, many of us still have some questions. I think we can reach them on the various platforms where how we can reach them to get our any questions to be clarified. And I think we should have an open mind for the developments which come up. As initially said by Vishal, there will be some skepticism, even let it be any new drug which comes into market. We have some hesitancy initially. With this, we'll close the session. I thank the speakers and all the participants for active involvement, and over to organizers for concluding remarks. Thank you. Thank you, Anand.
Kishore, vote of thanks.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to present vote of thanks on behalf of IPS AP State Branch. First of all, I want to thank the speakers, Dr. Vishal Indla sir, and also Miss Sirisha, for really enlightening us about this topic. So, I hope that this is going to be very useful to the patient community and the doctor community in the future. And I thank today's moderator, Dr. Lokeswara garu, for moderating the session, and G. Ramana Rao garu, for who is the chair for the chairperson of the CME committee. And I thank the Sarad sir and IVL sir for really constantly creating academic events and providing us a very delicious feast of knowledge. We thank you, sir. And I thank all the participants who have joined, and hope that you will carry this knowledge forward. Thank you, everyone. Hello, last I forgot to tell Crescent Pharma who has sponsored this program. Thank you.